fadeaway with a hand in his face in the air for the win! Yes, sir! Garnett gives Minnesota the win at Target Center!
Towns rebound, lets it fly, and Karl-Anthony Towns drills it at the buzzer. A catastrophic finish for the Grizzlies.
Welcome to the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast, your home for the best Wolves talk around.
Wiggins spots up there, deep threes, got it. He scores it at the buzzer to give the Timberwolves the victory.
Welcome into another Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast, an impromptu Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast because we got a win, amazingly. We actually got a victory without D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns. So we'll talk about that in a minute. First, I got to introduce my guests. Of course, we have Chris Emerson. Chris, how you doing?
Doing wonderful. Much better than the weeks past.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a little bit since we got the win. And Jared Good. Jared, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. It's nice to have like a surprise positivity podcast, so I'm looking forward to it tonight.
Right. When it's this franchise, you gotta take all the good that you can get. So we got a win. We won without D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns. So let's start with who stepped up for the Timberwolves, in your opinion? Who? And I think the answer is honestly a lot of people stepped up, but who did you really like what you saw from on Saturday night? And let's start with you, Jared. Who do you think really stepped up for the Wolves?
So for me, I feel like a broken record, and I know like Chris is gonna when he talks about his guy as well. But I mean, for me, it was Jared Vanderbilt again. 16 and 11 had his, I believe it's his second career double-double. His second career double-double, and I believe that was his career high in points. He was super efficient. He was 8 for 13 from the field. Only played 21 minutes, which, I mean, I guess that's kind of where he's at right now. But, 21 minute, 16 points, 11 rebounds, the energy that dude brings it's just undeniable. 1 block, 2 steals. Jared Vanderbilt is an important piece to this team. And going forward, he needs to be our starting 4 with the current roster we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Chris, who do you think stepped up, or who would you want to kind of point out as someone who stepped up in their win against the Pelicans?
Well, like you said, the team effort was unbelievable. The energy was unbelievable. Everyone was like playing D. Everyone was locked in. And what I think it almost comes down to is, I don't know if you guys watch these or not, but I love watching these post-game interviews, little press things. Mm-hmm. And after our last loss, if you listen to Rubio's, I have never heard a player that was as honest and open about what's going on. He basically said, our team is giving up. Nobody's playing the right way. We have to rip it all down and start from the beginning, start with basketball ABCs. He put everybody on notice, including himself. And it was one of the most, this is why he was brought here as a leader moments. Mm-hmm. So that amazed me. And then he comes out and, he did a great job just orchestrating,
Yep.
Playing his role, playing like the Ricky Rubio that was, 13 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds for the last, 10 years. He played like that guy. But that Ricky Rubio can't play like that Ricky Rubio if you don't have Vanderbilt flying around at high energy, if you don't have Naz Reid being super efficient and taking it to him. Naz Reid is my guy, I'll say. Naz Reid, and I know it might be another broken record for me, but that guy is going to be a stud. He's going to be a very good player. And I'll tell you what, he's going to make a living nightmare for Wiseman these next couple games. I think he's going to get Wiseman in so much foul trouble because Naz has got that Al Jefferson kind of sort of some post play like that where you don't expect it much. He's got a little bit more athleticism than you want. He'll poke that three in your face if you step off him. He's a good passer. This guy can play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he can. He can. And my guy, I guess, I got to go, even though I know we've been dogging him for a while on this show, and for good reason. Jared Culver had a very good game off the bench for the Timberwolves. 16 points, 1 steal, 5 rebounds, but just whenever you're getting 16 points out of Jared Culver on efficient shooting, 6 for 9, I mean, that's good. I mean, he hit 2 threes. That's something that he usually doesn't do. And the Wolves in general, 35% from 3-point land. Pretty good. Pretty good overall. So, and yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna add, like, I think something that's promising for the people that are really backing Rubio. So prior to the game, I looked at my phone and I figured, let's see how many minutes Rubio can play coming off this protocol, this COVID protocol. Right. They listed at 24 to 28 minutes. Well, he played 28 minutes on the nose, so that's promising going forward to say that, okay, Rubio played the max amount of minutes on a minutes restriction. So maybe they want to give Rubio a bigger look in his role.
Yeah. I mean, I would not be against Rubio starting and playing D'Lo and I mean, obviously you got to start D'Lo, but playing D'Lo and Rubio together on the starting lineup. But really, like 1 through 10, I guess you could say, really everyone stepped up and did their part. Ed Davis had some clutch rebounds. He had 9 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds for Ed Davis. McLaughlin looked really good. He was a team high plus 10, 11 points on the floor and 4 assists. And Anthony Edwards, no, he didn't shoot well necessarily, but still 18 points, a plus 9, and hit 2 threes. So, yeah, just this is kind of the production, and I didn't see the official stats, but it looked like overall the bench points for the Timberwolves were way higher than it was for the New Orleans Pelicans. In fact, I could see, looks like they only had like 17 points from their bench. So yeah, which is surprising. Something that surprises me looking at the stats right now, and this is kind of a Pelicans thing. J.J. Redick only played 11 minutes and had 0 points. Like,
he's been off.
I don't like the way they use J.J. Redick at all.
No, and they're not even running good action for him either.
No. We had 50 off our bench, for what it's worth. 50 points off our bench.
50 points? Okay. That's pretty good.
Pretty good. We'll take it. The thing about Anthony Edwards is, just like I said last podcast, he shows those flashes of brilliance. And like I said, they don't always go in, but like he has those flashes. I that's what I'm looking for in a guy like him, is show me that you have that it factor. And he has it.
Right. And I wonder we kind of mentioned it with Wiseman. I wonder if he had a chip on his shoulder, like we were talking about, like proving that he should have been the number 1 pick, but wonder if he had a chip on his shoulder playing last year's number 1 pick. Like,
oh, I'm sure he did. He went right at him a couple times and got a couple foul calls. Got to the line a lot too. I mean, he got to the line. He earned himself some shots.
Yeah. There was one play in particular where Edwards drove to the hole and Zion met him at his peak point, and Edwards was like, I'm going to throw this down on you and show you who I am. And granted, he got fouled and he went to the free throw line, but like he had that drive to where like he's like, I'm going to show you who I am right now.
Yeah, it was chest to chest at about 9 feet in the air.
Yeah, and that's fun. That's fun. That's fun to see the attacking Edwards who just, you can see flashes in the pan of the potential that he can be. And we got to remember, when he struggles, he's only 19 years old. And he's coming from a situation, Georgia, where, I mean, no disrespect to trying to remember their coach's name.
Tom Crean.
Tom Crean, yeah. no disrespect to Tom Crean, but it's not like it's a blue chip factory over there. And he's coming from a situation where he had to throw up shots late in the shot clock and be everything on that team. So
not only like with Georgia, they weren't any good.
Exactly.
He's used to winning. He's used to being out on the floor and scoring 25 points. So you got to kind of try and put him in that role, and I think that's the reason why we have him coming off the bench. Like we talked about last podcast, and maybe mixing up the lineups and doing some stuff with him. But like this dude just wants the ball in his hands and he wants to show his ability, and he's been able to do that off the bench.
Yeah, he has. Yeah. I think it's safe to say that for a good amount of time, I don't think any number one picks are coming from Georgia anytime soon.
No.
So, yeah. A good performance out of Anthony Edwards. Yes, he didn't necessarily shoot well, but he shot well enough, particularly at the free throw line, 6 for 6. Oh, that was another thing. The Wolves this game, and I know a lot of it came in when they were fouling just to try to make a run at coming back. Pretty good at the free throw line tonight. Got off last night, 37 attempts, made 30 of them. I think it was just a testament to their drive to get to the basket, and they did pretty well with that. So one question I want to bring up: do you guys think, since Ricky Rubio played so well and seeing him as a ball-dominant point guard, do you think that Rubio should start alongside D'Lo? And we'll start with you, Chris.
The one thing that I think I'm seeing right now happening, and I think it's kind of an organic movement, is almost the team versus the stars. Like, to me right now, I'm kind of getting a vibe, and maybe I'm completely off on this, but with some of the things that Rubio said and some of the things that I've heard some of the other guys say after, it's almost sounding like the team is kind of getting fed up with D'Lo's ball hoggy, put up a 40-foot three-pointer early in the shot clock kind of game. Karl Anthony Towns, he's a great guy, but he doesn't, like, whenever you saw a video this summer of the players, you always saw Kogi and Vanderbilt and all those guys playing. You never saw Cat with them. I'm almost thinking that we're going to almost have to have two rosters. Like, I want one team to be Rubio, Okogie, Beasley, Vanderbilt, Nas. That's who kind of did all the work in the beginning of the third quarter for us. And I want to see that roster get comfortable together and just play together. I mean, obviously it's not, we need Vanderbilt with the starters too, because we just need active play. But I mean, I think it's getting to the point where D'Lo and Cat are going to have to find their spaces in with this roster, in with this energy team, because what happened last night wasn't just a win. Like, everyone played so together, and we haven't played that way. And before, when we were winning with Cat, he was putting up huge numbers and everything went through him, and that was great. But last night, the ball went through everybody, it just had a different feel to the game. I don't know how they're going to put it together. I don't think Rubio and D'Lo should play together. I think at this point that needs to be scrapped, and I think Rubio needs to find a unit that he can get comfortable with, know where those guys are going to be, and just run that unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jared, do you agree with him? Do you share his views, or do you have a different opinion of what they should do with Rubio? And
so I kind of want to backtrack even to was maybe 2 podcasts ago that we were all together. So 3 for the podcast, but 2 that we were together. Sure. And I want to backtrack on a couple things I said and a couple things that Chris even said. And one of the things that I said was, we were talking about jumbling starting lineups. Like, we have Cat out. Like, now is the time to figure out what your players' bench roles are. Like the people that we have off the bench, and that would be considered Rubio and himself, because he's been off the bench all year. So, we talked about stuff like that, like we just need to identify ourselves. We kind of admitted we weren't that good, but we need to identify our roles. And then talking with Rubio possibly starting, that's an idea that I've entertained a lot after yesterday. Like, he's a leader. This team, Cat is a great player. I necessarily wouldn't call Cat a leader, but he's a phenomenal player. And then Chris was talking about how, like, look at who Rubio's played with. Rubio played with Mitchell. He made Mitchell great. Rubio played with Booker. He made Booker great. D'Angelo Russell has shooting guard experience. So why can't we put D'Angelo at the 2 and see what happens? Like, there's nothing to lose right now until Cat comes back. Even when Cat comes back, we're still a 4-11 team. Mm-hmm. So it's time to figure it out now. And the last thing that I just wanted to say was, like, now's the time to do it. Like, it's just time to figure out what our identities are.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Jim P said something last game that I think might be the reason why I don't think it's going to work with Rubio and D'Lo. During the game, he mentioned, and he was talking about how hard it is to, like, put an offense together with this whole quick COVID preseason and all that crap. And he said, basically, and he knows his X's and O's as much as anyone, obviously. And he said, everyone's running the same offense. He said every single team is running the same offense because no one really had the time to get stuff in just short off season. So I think in a perfect world, I think D'Lo would be running some of the actions that Booker ran, and maybe some of the actions he ran when him and Dinwiddie played together with the Nets, and maybe some of the actions that Donovan Mitchell ran. But I think we just didn't have the time to put – I mean, we didn't know we were going to have Rubio to the draft. And then once that hit, I mean, it was – 2 weeks until we were playing preseason games or something? Like, it was such a quick turnaround. I don't think that we've had time to really put in that offense. So I think, and really with Rubio, I don't know if he's going to be on this. Maybe he'll be on the roster all the way through the year. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens at the trade deadline if our play, but maybe Jaden McDaniels' play and Vanderbilt's play will extend him into next year to the trade deadline. I mean, I don't see him playing beyond next year for the Wolves. I think is a trade chip, but we'll see. But I maybe then we'll be able to get it together with him and D'Lo. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And yeah, I mean, if he keeps playing the way that he's playing, I mean, I don't see why not give him a shot and try to play. Like I said, Rubio, I feel like, is a player that needs shooters around him, and I feel like there's more shooters in the starting lineup. So that's kind of why I say to put him in the starting lineup. So the Wolves, as we mentioned, won last night. So what I want to bring up is, do you think that were there any coaching decisions that Saunders made last night that you were like, oh, that's an improvement over what has been going on lately, or do you think it was just a case of the team stepping up and putting the team on their back and just kind of making it happen? Did you see anything out of Saunders that impressed you last night? And we'll start with you, Jared.
Yeah, So, I mean, Jaden McDaniels has continued to get more run, and he played 20 minutes, and I think that might even be a season high for him. Like, 20 minutes, he didn't play all that great. I mean, he was 1 for 7 and, had 4 fouls and a couple blocks and a couple steals. But, like, Jaden McDaniels is so much like Jared Vanderbilt, and this is why I love Jared Vanderbilt, is that dude has a motor. I watched this game actually on my computer, and there was a point in time And I remember commenting on something and be like, that's why I love Jared Vanderbilt. Like, he gets the offensive rebound, he misses, gets another offensive rebound, and then spins back and puts it home. And I'm like, that dude wants to play. He wants to be on this team. He wants to be out there, and he loves his role. So his role, to me, is established. Like, for our current roster, Vanderbilt needs to be our 4. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm really passionate about it. And Jaden McDaniels is another guy that we've talked about that most of us have liked on this podcast. And we talked about how he can be a spark off the bench, and he didn't play hyper efficient, but the minutes were there and the hustle was there. And that was kind of nice to see Saunders kind of recognize that instead of him getting his, 12 minutes, it got bumped to 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Chris, did you see anything out of Saunders that you liked last night?
It's hard to say this on a win, especially when it was such a great team win, but this was one of the nights that I really didn't like what I saw out of Saunders. Okay. With about 5 minutes and 30 seconds left, we're up 16, which usually about at the 6-minute mark, that's when we kind of bring in our closing lineup kind of thing. And that's when we had the lineup out there that had, I think it was Culver, Rubio, Okogie, Vanderbilt, Beasley. It's kind of how we finished it with Culver or Okogie maybe at the 4. And we got into the penalty or into the bonus like that early too. And I mean, Culver did okay. Like, his numbers were okay. He hit a couple threes, which is great. And let's not pretend like, he's a shooter all of a sudden, but most of his buckets were from 6 inches away, which is kind of his range right now. But I was actually pretty disappointed that we didn't get Anthony Edwards back in there.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
He was getting to the hole at will. He was getting fouled. He was getting to the line. When you're trying to hold a lead, you want to get a guy in there that's getting to the free throw line. And when he's having one of his best games so far, if you're a coach like we talked about last episode, stick up for your guy. Well, you also put your guy in there when he's playing well. And unless we were just trying to pump up Culver, which is very possible, and maybe that was the reason, but in my mind, Edwards needed to be in there. And it just kept going down. And I just kept looking at the clock, 3:30, still, Culver's still in there. He needs to come out. Like, our points just keep getting lower and lower. Culver has been, the last 2 games, I'm a huge critic of Culver, so I won't even try to pretend I'm not. Right. But the last 2 games, this is what I've noticed from him. He can be a serviceable NBA player. Mind you, at some point we have to step back from our expectations and put them what they are. He's not a lead defender. Every advanced statistic tells you he's terrible at defense, and every eye test will tell you he's not doing well at defense. But, I mean, I'm talking about because we were putting him on like the best guy. If he's just guarding his guy, like whoever it is, like if it's, random small forward on the team, he can do well at that job. And if he's our 4th or 5th option on offense, he can be okay at that. Last night with that closing lineup of Rubio, Okogie, Culver, Beasley, Vanderbilt, he's the number 2 option maybe. We can't have Culver be the number 2 offensive option. I mean, that lineup is just asking to let the lead dwindle away. So I was kind of pissed at that. But I mean, it worked. We won. But I mean, it was really tight at the end there, and we were worried about it. But still, with 5 minutes left, like I said, we were up 16. Like, you got to get someone in there that can score. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it pissed me off, but again, maybe it was just trying to get Culver some, get him going, get him some motivation, and I don't know what, but to not have Edwards in there killed me.
I think they kind of waited with their substitutions, like I said earlier, with the Rubio minutes restriction, because there was a point where I was watching the game and I'm like, okay, we're up by, 16, 10. I'm like, where's Rubio at? Like, he's got to close, like we're in a game we haven't won a game without Cat all season. Like, we got to get him in there. And I think that's why they were kind of trying to be a little bit more patient with the rotation, but eventually they kind of got it squared away and got Rubio in there. But like you said, it would be nice to see Edwards close in that situation. You need someone to score.
Especially when he's hot. I mean, he was getting to the line. That's what we needed. And we were in the bonus. Get him to the line.
6 from the line.
If we lost that game, which it wasn't a sure thing at the end there. If we would have lost that game, I don't think Ryan Saunders coaches the next. I mean, he probably does, but if he thought he was on the hot seat now, if we would have lost that game, I don't know who would have been behind him.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I thought, I had the same thing as you, Chris. I kind of thought, like, where is Anthony Edwards in this spot? I mean, he's your number one pick. He has like 16 points tonight, and like you said, he's been getting the line. So you got to have him out there, particularly when you don't have D'Lo and you don't have Cat, other scorers that can take the burden off of people like Culver or Rubio or. Yeah, there are some lineups that the Wolves throw out, and I just say to myself, like, who's going to score here? Like, how are we going to score any points?
We didn't even have Nas out there till I think the last couple minutes. I mean, Nas had a huge game. Like, were we trying to not? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, you have to score a couple buckets.
Right. And we gotta put this win into perspective. I mean, we won at home against, to be honest, a bad team, to be honest. But still, I mean, they got Zion, they got Brandon Ingram, they got Bledsoe. Steven Adams didn't do much in this game. I thought he was going to go off on us, to be honest with you.
Nas took him out of the game.
Yeah, he did. He has in the past. But yeah, a pretty good overall. Let's finish the podcast. Kind of looking forward, taking a look at the upcoming games. The Warriors, as we said, it's Anthony Edwards versus James Wiseman. So obviously there should be some fire in the belly. So let's go with this. Give one reason for fans to be optimistic for the Wolves taking on the Warriors. And let's start with you, Chris. Why should the fans be optimistic for this to get a win over the Warriors in this matchup?
I think this is going to be a hot take. The Wolves should be optimistic because we are going to show that Naz Reid's a better player than James Wiseman.
Ooh. I think
he's going to show it on the court.
I like that. And Jared, why should Wolves fans be optimistic?
I think the Wolves fans should be optimistic moving forward just because we might have seen the second coming of everyone's favorite Timberwolf, Ricky Rubio. He had a good game. We might see an expanded role for him, and we're waiting to get Cat back, so we can pretty much jog out whoever we want on our 10, 12 team deep bench that we're looking at.
Right.
Also, I just wanted to note that we are 8-point underdogs in the first game against the Warriors, and 91% of the public is willing to lay the 8 on the Warriors.
D'Lo's out too, maybe.
Really?
I just saw Dane Moore put it out about an hour ago. D'Angelo Russell is questionable to play Monday against Golden State with a right quad contusion.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's why I thought that the rest thing felt a little weird. It didn't feel right for me, particularly when you have another star that's out. But yeah. I mean, maybe we don't need him. I mean, I hate to say that, but maybe the team runs better without him. I mean, I think we obviously need him in, but maybe there's a little extra motivation knowing, like, hey, maybe I'll get the ball more. Maybe we won't chuck up as many shots. So
I mean, D'Angelo Russell's a stud. I love him, and I don't want to throw any shade on him. I think his plus minus, which is horrific. I think there's some some ways that can be explained on why that happened. But I also don't think it's bad for a team that's in the spot we are right now with this young of a team to get some run where everyone's touching the ball and the ball's moving around and everyone's playing with energy. There's not as much ball watching. I think another game of that, win or lose, if we play well and play as a team, I think we'll go a lot longer, could go a lot longer. Then when we get our stars back, hopefully we'll play with that same energy and we can be a whole different team.
Right, absolutely. Oh, and I forgot to say my reason for why they should be positive, because Cat will be back soon.
Yes.
It really comes down to that. I mean, could be Wednesday, like Chris on the last show was saying. So, yeah, well, the Wolves got a victory. Hopefully they can make it 3 in a row this coming week. 2 primetime games, so one on NBA TV, one on ESPN, so the whole league gets to see what we got. So thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and this has been another episode of the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.